Tuning out of starlight, the innocent lifetime flickers and flashes.
My definition of euthanasia is being able to put somebody out of their misery, basically to allow somebody to kill themselves if they are in enough pain or discomfort or whatever, so that they end their suffering. It's an end to something suffering. If I run over a cat with my car and I didn't kill the cat, somehow I've got to put the cat out of its misery. That's euthanasia. Introduce me or anything? Hi, I'm Mr. Martin. I teach engineering here at King High School. Zach, it must be embarrassed to introduce me.
No, it's cool. All right.
I look at euthanasia from a perspective of being a Christian. I'm a devout Christian, and so I believe that life is sacred. I believe in the sanctity of life, that all life is valuable, and that when we are alive and we have that light inside of us, that maybe that light can shine to somebody else. So this elderly woman who really can't do anything for herself, I certainly sympathize. I certainly see why she would want to do herself in. But what if her light is extinguished before it can have an effect on somebody else? Perhaps this woman has something inside her. There's some type of love, some type of perspective that she can give to other people that might give them hope. It doesn't say anything in the question about that. So I have to look at it in the terms of, can this woman still be a light and a hope to others, even though she's like this? Her daughter, for example, is having to put aside her job. And I can tell you from past experience that is quite a inconvenience. We'll just leave it at that. However, if the mom has that light inside her that the daughter can see, that lady can be a light to her daughter, and who knows what can become of that. So the other thing about the question, and I don't know if this is the way you worded it or Mr. Martinez, your teacher, worded it, but there's the thing in there about the right to euthanize yourself. We all have the right to euthanize ourselves at any time. However, we also have to remember what the word right means. A right means that I have the privilege of doing something as long as it's not a burden on somebody else. So is doing herself in, performing euthanasia on herself, going to be a burden on anybody else? Well, she's a burden now, obviously, because the daughter's got to take time off of work to take care of her. But certainly she has the right to perform euthanasia on herself. We all have the right to do that. But do we really? Is it going to be a burden on somebody else? So that is not part of the question. And so I know that I've spent a couple of minutes answering the question. So my answer is yes, she does have the right to euthanize.
I was going to say, sorry if this becomes offensive, but let's say this was your mom or your grandmother. Would your answer change in any way?
I don't think it would, and I gotta tell you, both my parents are elderly. They're not to that point yet, but they may. But any time that I have to spend with my parents is valuable time. Absolutely not. Why or why not? Because it doesn't say anything in here that they have the permission, the prior permission from the kid to do that. It's called a do not resuscitate, a DNR for short. And my family, we all have DNRs. If something were to happen to my wife, or if something were to happen to me, and my wife had to look after me, we both have a DNR. And the doctors know not to perform life-saving stuff on us that we would rather go, because we don't want to live our life like that. So should they be able to exercise euthanasia? No, unless they have prior permission from the kid to do that, or from the, I guess he's an adult male, but it's it's the family's son, brother, whatever.
In a religious view, what do you think God is implying by keeping the person like that?
That's a really good question. From a religious point of view, and this is going to be controversial, and I really wish I could sit in with your class to hear this conversation about to happen. Why was the kid saved to begin with? Maybe, according to God's plan, that kid got in the accident or whatever happened to put him in the... Oh yeah, it says recent accident. Maybe that kid got in an accident because God was calling him home. God was saying, you've served your purpose. You've done what I've wanted you to do. My good and faithful servant. It's time for you to come home. Who are we to say that we need to save his life? You know, I mean, it happens all the time. Somebody gets in an accident and somebody's near death, and the EMTs and the doctors and everybody bring somebody back from actually being clinically dead. Who's to say we have the right to do that under God's plan? If God's plan is to bring me home, if I'm to die in a fiery crash on the way home from work this afternoon, who are we to say, let's save him? Hey, maybe it's God's plan for me to, maybe I'm done. Maybe God is saying, it's time to bring you home. So that's the controversial part of this is, do we save people when they've been in an accident like that? It's a tough question to answer. Absolutely 100% no. And again, this goes back to God's plan. I believe that God knows who can take care of special needs kids like this. God is not going to give me or anybody else a special needs son or daughter unless God knows that I'm able to take care of that. It takes a special person to do that, and God knows who those people are. It takes a certain type of individual. It builds a certain inner strength and a certain patience and a certain devotion to God and a certain patience, virtuous existence to be able to take care of a kid like that. And so I think God knows what he's doing when he gives a set of parents a son or daughter like that. Absolutely not towards euthanasia for that kid. Follow up?
Yeah. What would you say about someone that was that would be like selfish? Like, would you call someone selfish that would want to keep their kid? You know, because that's obviously their flesh and blood. And like what would you say about them? Like,
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the selfishness part. Like if my wife gets pregnant and, you know, whatever, amniocentesis, or when the baby's first born, we find out that it's a special needs kid. Well, the kid's already been born, and I don't believe in abortion anyway.
Yes.
So if the kid's already been born and has these problems, hey, to me as a Christian, it means that God thinks enough of me that I'm able to take care of a special needs kid like this. To me, it's, you know, God wants me to do this.
Right.
Yeah. All right? Again, like I said earlier, we all have the right to do that. But again, like I said earlier, she may not know the example that she's setting to other people, the strength that she's exuding, the light and the blessing that she is to others. Others are going to say, boy, it would be very easy for her to just do herself in. It'd be very easy for her to, you know, perform euthanasia on herself. But she's not. That takes a special kind of person to have that strength to be that light and blessing to others, to show people that, hey, I can be a strong individual even though I have cancer and I take this medicine every day and I'm in discomfort. People are going to be, I don't want to say impressed because that might be the wrong word, but they're going to be, they're going to notice this and think, wow, there's something really special, very strong about her. No, she should not, because she doesn't know the strength and the light that she may be showing to other people.
Even if they direly just want to, like, no matter the religious beliefs or...
You know, again, we all have the right to do that. And at some point, if she's, you know, bedridden, again, that comes back to the DNR.
Yeah.
She may have it in place with the doctor and her family that at a certain point, don't hook me up to tubes. Don't hook me up to machines. Just let me go. Don't keep me alive any longer than I have to be, because I just can't. You know, at some certain point, we got to call it, and I have the right to perform that. I have the right to do that, because at that point, you're not really going to be a light and a blessing to others. At that point, I mean, you're you know, my grandmother, many years ago, when she died, she had a stroke and a heart attack at the same time. When my parents went to the hospital to see her, you know, she was attached to wires, tubes, machines, long enough for her immediate family to come say goodbye to her. She did have a do not resuscitate. And after the family had a chance to say goodbye to her, they, you know, fulfilled her wishes and unplugged the machine. That we all couldn't do something like that, you know, to have our loved ones around us and be able to go that way, you know. So.
All right. Well,
all right.
I wanted to ask you real quick. What do you think about? What would you define the difference between suicide off of emotions and suicide off of illnesses, or like the dire want?
That's a good question. It's the difference between emotional health and physical health. I think all of us would rather our body go before our brain. I'm sure everybody watching this, when you think about it, what would you rather go first? Would you rather your mind go before your body? Or would you rather your body go before your mind? If my body goes, I have a conscious knowledge that my body is failing me. Whatever that failing is, if it's kidneys or my heart, or I can't walk anymore, or whatever, I know what's happening, and I can prepare myself mentally for that. So, but if my mind goes first, I don't know, because I don't know what's going on. I've lost the mental facilities to make any kind of decisions or process anything. So, when it comes to an emotional decision like suicide, basically your mind is gone before your body, and you're making a decision that is based on, I hate to use the term, the heat of the moment, but it's a snap decision that, if given time, you know, things are always going to work themselves out. Yeah. Things can't be so bad that you have to do that. You know, I hear about you know, suicides all the time. You know, young kids, for whatever reason, they broke up with a girl, they broke up with a boy, they got bullied on the internet, whatever, and they decide my life's not worth living. Really? You're going to let somebody else run your life to the point where you're going to think it's not worth living? Really? So I don't think suicide is ever an answer. However, if I see my body deteriorating and my kidneys are failing and my, you know, heart's about to go, blah, 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 I can actually say, hey, when my body gets to a certain point, there's no need to keep me alive anymore. So I think there's a very distinct difference between it.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, well,
anything else?
No. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thanks, folks.
Cool.